Hey Zan, which match coverage should I play? Well, to be honest with you, the answer is not that simple, but today I'm going to make it simple for you. We're going to be breaking down the types of match coverage you should call against trips tight end style formations. This year, one of the most popular formations is known as the trips tight end flex, which you guys can find in various playbooks such as the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles, amongst others. But a lot of times players don't understand whether or not they should call quarters or palms or some other split field coverage against these styles of formations. And the most simple answer that I can provide players when they ask me which coverage to play is, how are they attacking you? So let's go ahead and break down why these coverages both are coverages that have strengths and weaknesses against the trips tight end. Let's first start off with quarters coverage and the basics that you need to run this coverage effectively. If you guys recall, I did a video just last week on the importance of the play recognition rating as it pertains to your coverage defenders. I wholeheartedly believe that this is the most important rating for playing this coverage. In fact, I've found this year that you don't even really need good man-to-man coverage rating. So long as you have decent zone and decent play recognition, your players will basically substitute their play recognition for their man coverage rating, and you could get away with having a lesser value. In other words, Jalen Pitre with decent zone here in regs at 84, but a little bit lackluster man coverage for the purpose of match, you might notice that that 86 play recognition makes his man coverage marginally better, and the effectiveness of the coverage will be better. So I tend to prioritize the play recognition rating. Starting off with the basics of cover four quarters against a trips tight end formation. One of the things that you need to understand when you play quarters is that you only have the two deep safeties that are on the trip side actively matching vertical attacking threats. And this means that if all three players in the trips go vertical, we have to enlist the help of the safety on the opposite side from the trips, which would be Ward, to play help on this formation. Now, from a standpoint of verticals, this is a totally fine call, as you'll see that the safety on the right is going to cheat over to the left and guard the B receiver, while Y and X are matched vertically by the two deep zones on the left side. This is a great coverage for when you're dealing with basically all verticals or all cross with this type of formation. Now, one of the things that we have to pay attention to that is a huge difference between quarters and palms is this defender. This is your nickel corner. He is in a role that is basically called a reroute assignment. He is going to get hands and get physical with that second receiver, drop underneath of him, and then pass him off to the safety, who will then pick him up man to man. The importance of this is that this receiver does not get a full head of steam on his vertical route. So that way he's disrupted on his release, so this safety can then pick him up and he's not running full speed right past the safety. This is a major issue for a lot of players when they call cover four palms, which we'll talk about momentarily. So as I mentioned, quarters is basically going to be really good when you have that inside most receiver on the trip side running vertical and attacking the other side of the field, crossing the field towards the tight end side. But there's a little bit of a caveat that a lot of players don't understand exists in cover four quarters, and actually also in cover four palms. We'll show it as well momentarily. And that is if the tight end runs a shallow cross. So verticals Y drag is one of the more popular route combos from trips. A lot of players like to spam this tight end against zone coverages because they have everybody on the left side of the field driving off the coverage, and then he's going to come underneath into that void where hopefully the zones are dropping way back. Well, with this being match coverage, we don't necessarily have that luxury. And I want to show you guys a little bit of a coverage swap that occurs. You remember the safety that I said will pick up that third receiver if he goes vertical? Well, believe it or not, he also has a priority for the tight end if he goes underneath, meaning that he will jump down on this player running the drag, and then the outside defender will assume the role replacing him, looking for that crosser coming from the other side. So you'll see a swap of Stingley and Ward here with this route combination. So I'm going to go ahead and snap the ball here with this Y under. You're going to see the tight end get cut, and then the outside corner plays the crossing route. And this is a nice little trick that you guys will be able to utilize within quarters. And as I mentioned, palms here in this. So again, zooming out and focusing on this right side of the field, we're going to see that the safety is going to see the tight end go underneath and he's going to match it. Now, the cool part about this is that in quarters, the reroute assignment is going to then return back to the flat a lot of times. Unfortunately, in this example, he was very late doing so, which is why having a player that can play the drag is very important here. However, because the tight end went underneath, that creates basically ad lib work for this defender. So he's going to then drop to the inside and look for that crossing route coming from the other side of the field, and he's going to pick it up man to man. So this is a cool little trick that a lot of players actually screw up, because the most popular user candidate in match is oftentimes this defender. So a lot of times people think, okay, well, I'm going to play the weak side safety because that's the player that has the most freedom. Well, that's not the case if the guy goes underneath. If you get out here, now all of a sudden this drag is open because you're no longer doing your responsibility within the construct of a quarters defense. So that's a very important designation that you need to understand with this. So quarters, it's good for all verticals, and it's good for basically crossing route metas, but it also has some nuance in that the tight end dictates what the safety on that side will do. If the tight end goes underneath, then that safety has to take him. If the tight end goes vertical, then that safety is going to end up looking towards the trips to see if there's a crossing route coming his way from the other side that he needs to give help to. Now, if you guys are enjoying today's video, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Also, any comments below are appreciated as it pushes this video out in the YouTube algorithm, so this channel reaches other players just like you who are looking for tips and tutorial content. Now we're going to talk about cover 4 palms. This is a very, very different coverage from quarters when dealing with a trips tight end offense. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to set up some ad lib route combinations here and kind of explain what this coverage does differently. Now, as I've already mentioned here, the safety is going to basically have to pay attention to the tight end on the tight end side. If he goes underneath, he has to play that drag. But the trip side is very, very different in how it behaves. Remember how in quarters, if the tight end doesn't go underneath, this safety will basically cheat and look for an opportunity to match somebody from the trip side? That is not necessarily a thing in Palms coverage, because instead of the reroute assignment that we have on our slot corner, the slot corner is responsible for the middle receiver in trips if he goes vertical. So rather than a jam and a pass off to the safety behind him, he is responsible for every single bit of the middle receiver's route. Then this allows our safety on the trip side to handle the inside most receiver, instead of us being in a situation where there are only 2 vertical matching zones in quarters on that trip side. We now have 3 because the quarter flat gets involved with the middle receiver. This basically allows all 3 of those players that are on the left to essentially play man-to-man on those guys if they go vertical. Now, why is this especially useful? This is useful because if you end up in a scenario where you're playing a quarters-based defense and the inside most receiver goes to the outside, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if the safety that is on the right side has to cheat all the way across the field to guard a corner route. So when you get these route combinations where there's a flood attacking the sideline, to have to rely on this safety to get all the way over to match that inside most receiver, that's not really a good coverage call. Quarters is good, again, when everything is going vertical, straight vertical, or crossing the field. Palms is going to be better when you're dealing with sideline attacking threats to the trip side. So when we talk about this route combination here, you're going to see that the corner route to B is matched by that safety. So I can't necessarily just lay that throw in there against this variant of match quarters. This is palms. This is a cool little setup here because we get this rule set with the quarter flat that he's basically going to play the flat if the middle receiver goes to the flat, but he's also going to play that middle receiver if he goes vertical as well. This frees up the safety to play this guy if he goes vertical and runs to the corner or across the field. Now, the cool thing is that if Dotson were to break across the field rather than to the sideline, the safety that we talked about on the other side is basically help for this. So this is a good candidate to user in Palms because you can kind of freestyle on this and be able to look for crossing routes from the trip side. Or obviously if the tight end goes underneath, we have to have that responsibility as well, and we'll get the replacement from this other receiver. We're going to get to that momentarily. Now let's talk about the outside corners role on the trip side in Palms. You'll notice that Lassiter here is in a press alignment. Me personally, I'm not a fan of the press alignment, so I might consider mixing in a coverage shell with this to like show cover 2 and back this guy up a little bit so he's not jamming. But we need to make sure that we address this special rule set with the outside corner. He is locked in anytime he's facing trips to the outside receiver, no matter what. For all intents and purposes, the play art ought to look like this, where he's just manned up, because he's not just matching the receiver if he goes vertical. He's matching him on anything. This includes a drag, a slant, a smoke route, anything. Okay, so if I were to go ahead and run a combo out of trips, where I ran a middle receiver streak, a corner from the inside most receiver, and a smoke screen, you're going to see the outside corner jump down on AJ Brown. You're going to see the quarter flat play Devonta Smith vertical, and you're going to see the safety take Dotson to the sideline. So let's go ahead and snap the ball here. You'll see this exact rule set play out. Now this throw right here is where players get frustrated with playing match coverage against trips. We probably have seen a lot of pro players online just call Palms because they know it's got some glitchy coverage rules, but they don't fully grasp everything about this coverage. So what ends up happening is they wonder why this player gets run by. Well, that's because you left a guy in a non-jamming role one-on-one with a guy getting a free release down the middle. So a lot of people look at this and they say, well, this is a terrible coverage. Well, you could do better, that's for sure. But you do see here that if it's basically smoke, vertical, you're not gonna have that outside corner giving help because it's trips, okay? So make sure that you guys understand this rule set. If you're dealing with something like that route combo, it's all about understanding what coverage you really need to be playing. So I'm gonna go back to the quarters here just for a split second and kind of help you guys understand it's not as simple as if they attack the middle, it's always quarters. If they attack the sideline, it's always palms. It's understand what they're doing to attack you. If there's only 2 vertical attacking threats on the trip side of the formation, you can call quarters because you'll have 2 vertical matching deep zones on this play. And again, if we just have 2 attacking threats, you're going to see that we still have enough deep zones on this side of the field that we can play this, and this will be just fine. Now, of course, not perfect. There will be some times where guys swap off late. There's always going to be little blips in the system, but if they're only attacking with 2 vertical routes on the trip side, you have 2 deep zones that can match those routes, generally speaking. Again, Palms has its strengths, but it also has its weaknesses, especially when they're, isolating that one-on-one against the quarter flat defender down the middle of the field. Now, I do need to make sure we go back to the cover 4 Palms to show the little drag combo here. But I do want to make sure that you guys check out my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. As you can see, match coverage is a science. This is something I've specialized in since they put it into the game all the way back in Madden 19. You guys can take a look at my match game plan, which breaks down the rules for cover 4 quarters, cover 4 palms, cover 6, and cover 9, not just against trips formations, but also against bunch, against spread doubles, spread trips, kind of like we're looking at here, but this is trip side end, but also compression-based offenses as well. And believe it or not, contrary to popular belief, there are matching coverages in the game that exist when there are 4 receivers to one side of the field. So make sure you guys go check it out. You guys can unlock everything on the website for $9.95. All game plans, weekly updated vault content. We have over 170 tips on Madden since the game dropped in our vault, members only Discord access, and lab sessions in that Discord every single week at no additional charge. So make sure you guys go check it out. Now let's get back to our palms coverage. So I did stress that if the tight end goes under in quarters or palms, you need to make sure that you know that the safety on the tight end side is responsible for that. So what I want to do here is I want to get a little bit adjusty here on offense. We're going to start to do some kind of wonky stuff, okay? So keeping in mind that we are in palms coverage. So if we were to have a route combination like this out of trips where the outside receiver attacks vertical, the middle receiver attacks vertical to the sideline, the inside receiver is attacking vertical but breaking over the middle, but the tight end on the right side is going under, we basically are enlisting the outside corner, the quarter flat, and both safeties into matching principles. But reminder, this safety cannot help on that post coming from the trip side because he's responsible for playing the tight end. So let's go ahead and snap the ball here, and you're going to see that he's responsible for playing the drag. But then keep in mind that we have the outside corner on the tight end side who now gets to assume the role of the safety. So again, here you see that the safety cuts the drag. He's a little bit out leveraged. I'll show you something you can do to improve this here momentarily. And you have this guy now looking at the post from the other side. So you have the match from the safety on the trip side and the outside corner bracketing the post. And then rolling back to look at the rest of the route combo from the trip side, you see the quarter flat matching the corner and the outside corner playing man-to-man on the outside receiver as he would, because we talked about that special man-to-man rule. So everything is pretty well handled with the exception of maybe the tight end drag. So let's go back here and just show you one of the things that I recommend here. So when I typically am playing a match coverage against trips, I am big on cheating this safety down. For what reason? One, if the tight end goes underneath, I want him to be inside of the drag. So that way he's closer to it when he reacts to it, rather than all the way out here where the drag is going to beat him easily. But two, if I'm playing quarters, this safety's cheating towards that trip side in quarters. So it's a great spot to be in for palms or quarters to have this guy kind of in center field. Again, great user candidate as well. And you could also switch stick off of him if you so wish. But in this scenario, now what you end up with is you have the ability for this guy to cut the drag and play it a little bit more aggressively. Now, again, this is not ending up being, covered perfectly. But again, I'm a user candidate on this. So if I see it, I just cut it myself and then I'll switch stick off. And once you do, half the job yourself, you're fine. So I'm going to go ahead and show you just the more advanced version of this is I'll basically switch stick off of Ward once I've, jumped the drag. So here's the drag. Okay. And then I switch stick. You see how much better that is? And then I just assume the role of the guy that was matching the post. Pretty easy. And then if you wanted to add a second switch stick in, my recommendation would be once you switch stick up to this guy, maybe switch stick out to this guy who's got freedom, which would be our outside corner Stingley. So you could switch stick over to him and just kind of roll down into the middle of the field or help out wherever you need. So those are the basics of quarters and palms against trips coverage. And I hope that this video was beneficial for you. I do want to say here that if you decide to call cover 6, the cover 4 side of cover 6 plays palms. But the important thing to remember is that that safety on the other side is playing cover 2. So if that tight end drags underneath, you don't necessarily have that exact same rule set. So real quick, before we end this video, and I just want to say thank you for watching this whole video if you made it this far. If you play cover 6, my favorite user is this guy, the 3-rec hook. Because if the tight end comes underneath, this is what you've got to do. You've got to be here, okay? Everything else was palms on that play. You see the quarter flat matching the middle receiver, outside match, safety matching the inside guy. So again, cover 6 plays palms against trips. Hope this video was beneficial for you guys. Hopefully it helps answer those questions about which coverage do I call against trips tight end. It depends. Are they attacking the middle of the field? Are they attacking the sideline? What's the tight end doing? Now you have everything you need to know to make a more informed decision and play better defense against players in this very popular offensive formation. I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, make sure you guys like it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with our next video upload. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab in. Good luck.